out whose suggestion was it besides Waze to go ahead and get off at this exit. And so I think that'll be an important fact. And you know, what was going on that particular Sunday night when they got off the highway? Was there a person who approached their car and maybe asked for money?
Yeah,
we don't. That scared him. We don't know. So could a older man be a bit nervous in a historically black neighborhood that he doesn't know much about? Probably so. He could be a racist, but maybe not a killer.
And again, for folks just joining us, Tex McIver's trial will begin tomorrow morning, opening statements. They struck a jury today. The jury's 6 men, 6 women. You have 9 white jurors, 3 African Americans. That's the breakdown of it. And the question is, will race end up being an issue in this case? Let me ask my legal dream team, do you think race ends up being some sort of an issue in this trial?
I think it could become an issue, and only to bring it up to think about what kind of a person is Tex McIver. And actually, I think that if race does come up, it could work in his favor. Because if it is really true that he was nervous, there we have the reason why he asked for the gun out of the console.
As opposed to wanting to, the purpose being to murder his wife. The reason was he was legitimately fearful of where he was. Right now we're passing Baker Street, so...
yeah, and there's the highway. We're crossing over the highway. It's a beautiful little area.
Now we're on the other side
of
the highway that we're on before.
Yep, exactly, the connector. But you know what? One thing is that what I've learned through the years is that juries like to like your client. And even though race may not impact the part where he's shooting his wife, the fact that he made certain comments or did certain things comes in. His past experiences will come in.
Yeah.
Who he is, how he interacts with others, come in.
Yes.
If he's an a-hole, they will figure that out and then deduce that he shot his wife.
Sure. And if he is an a-hole and I'm the defense, and I think that's a very plausible argument for the prosecution, if I'm the defense, I'm going to say he is an a-hole, but he's not a killer.
Right.
You embrace it. You admit what you can't deny, and you deny what you don't want to admit.
In this context, you need to.
Yeah, and again, as we're coming here tonight, streets are pretty empty. Now, one of the things that came up, and this is where the racial aspect of the case really took off, was that his spokesperson, Bill Crane, who was going to testify at trial, gave a statement that Tex McIver was concerned because of a Black Lives Matter, whether there was some sort of protest in the area or...
This is Pine right here.
Yeah, I was just going to point out there's a homeless shelter up here on the corner on the left, and Renaissance Park on the right used to be very notorious for drug dealing. It isn't anymore. It used to be in the 90s or prior.
Yes.
Okay, so a long
and
time
the Pine
ago.
Street homeless shelter closed.
Thank you. So these are all old things.
This is a lot of old things. But again,
That's
to
a great
person who
restaurant right
might
there,
not,
by
a
the
person
way.
who might not know all that history down here, although I'm not sure that he did not know, you know, that would not necessarily come into play if he in fact just felt like he was in a neighborhood where he needed protection.
Sure. But you know, you ask about Buckhead. Buckhead is an area that's different, but remember, it was not the Ray Lewis shooting happening in the 90s that Don Samuel was involved in as well.
True.
Note the irony of things coming around. Buckhead's the same as the rest of Atlanta as far as I'm concerned.
Sure, and let's also not forget that he has lived in Atlanta for a long time.
50 years.
So let's, you know,
his name is Tex. He's originally from Texas.
Yes.
His name is Claude McIver. His nickname is Tex. Everybody calls him Tex. And he's been here for 50 years. So he has seen, I guess, all the different changes.
But maybe he'd forgotten. That's why I brought up the 2 issues with the homeless shelter and the Renaissance Park.
So
20 years ago, that was an issue.
Yeah,
and I think
maybe he
this
doesn't
is
remember
at the
time
point,
calling that. Sure.
I think this was about the point where they went into the console and got the gun. So, and part of this story is, and this is the part that's a little difficult to ascertain exactly what the defense is going to argue, because there's been a couple stories floated out there. But he had the gun, then may have fallen asleep, and then the question is, what woke him up? Was it just the gun going off, or, you know, again, there's going to be at least 2 different versions at trial about what happened, but he has the gun in the back.
Sure, and we've been in the car from the time that we got off at the Edgewood exit to where we are right now, coming upon Piedmont and 10th, where the shot would have gone off because of a bump in the road. So imagine that he would have had to fall asleep in between this 10-minute ride from when the gun was given to him out of the console to now it's getting ready to go off. So he was sleeping for the last 8 minutes.
For the last 8 minutes, kind of
after a big steak dinner.
And here we are at Ponce de Leon. We're across this another major thoroughfare here. You've got a couple of gas stations here. And again,
This is a very gentrified area, though.
It's a quiet night. It's a lot colder, I'm sure, tonight than it was.
Yes, it was probably very
night,
warm
which
that
will
night,
keep
I'm
people
sure.
inside in the south. But,
Sure.
I mean, there's
And
nothing,
as he's
nothing
driving
scary
this
about
way,
this.
no,
There's
I
be
was going to
something scary
say,
about this neighborhood.
as he's driving this way, he ought to be getting ready to put the gun away.
Yeah,
as things are
this
getting
is
better
expensive
and
swank
better
area,
as
yeah.
we start to drive, but the gun
Yeah.
is still cocked.
That's the problem.
The
I have with
safety
whole
is
story.
off.
Yes.
And he is about to, in another 3 or 4 blocks, go over a bump that purportedly is the shot that kills his
And
wife.
he has guns upon guns upon guns, as we know from violating his bond even. He absolutely loves these things. And so if he has these things, he should certainly know how to handle them.
Yes.
And that's going to be a big
my
argument,
big issue
right?
here, because if
That-
you know how to handle these guys,
Right.
you would never hold it cocked like that if you are 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night and exhausted.
And what if you're sleepy?
Yeah,
Would
you're
you? Yeah, you've had a big
I'm
steak
gonna hold
dinner
this, and I've
now
had a
you're
glass
sleeping.
of wine and steak. We all know eating steak and having
Right.
eaten a couple sips
Just
of wine,
let the
we're gonna be
record reflect
tired.
this, this man in front of us is not scary. He is definitely not scary. And you look around this area. I mean, this area is
And
really
again,
nice.
Emory has another,
beautiful.
hospital right here. So
But as
There
we
are
go,
a lot of bumps,
I was
though.
about to say, as we go over down this road, there are quite a few bumps. Now, a bump big enough to have a gun fall out of your
he was
lap
driving
and
a
point.
Lincoln Navigator. Those things are, I have not driven them, I have to admit.
I
But
think
they're
it was an
good on the
expedition.
road. They're good on the road.
Okay, well,
Expedition.
same thing, I guess. But you're
It
right,
was a
the
big
Lincoln
truck.
is more swanky, right? So
Yes.
maybe it would be test, but you would
Or-
think a larger car would be
Better on the
able to
road.
handle the
Now,
bumps.
we believe what the testimony will be that it was somewhere between 10th and 14th where
Okay.
the gun
Piedmont
went
Park
off.
starts.
And right now we're
On
approaching 8th, so we're getting really close to that area.
Hi, Mark.
Yes.
Mark lives here.
And again, the further you come down here, it's residential, it's quiet, it's nice. I mean, there's nothing intimidating about anything
Not at
here.
all.
Now, were there more people on the streets? Was there an actual protest? So there were people
On a
hanging out
Sunday
here?
night right here, not
Yeah,
likely.
I don't think so.
No.
Not likely that there would be a Black Lives Matter protest going on in
No.
Midtown on a Sunday night.
No.
So,
Blake's is here. Flying Biscuits
The
here.
Flying Biscuit. I've been to that Flying Biscuit.
And that's always very busy. All this area is very busy. There's Caribou Coffee right here too.
This is an area, and now you've got these new high rises going up here. This area is pretty expensive that we're in right now, isn't it?
Yeah, this is.
So
This is
he,
Piedmont Park.
Pam Neal says, well, if he was driving, how was he sleeping? Well, Pam, he wasn't driving.
in the
Danny
backseat
Joe,
with us.
the friend, was driving. He's in the back seat with the gun where I'm sitting.
Which makes no sense. He was sitting
Yeah.
back here, exactly.
Yeah, he was sitting
in
back
a large
here.
car like this as well. So I think that
Sure.
helps explain, because if you were driving, say, a BMW 3 Series, you would be this close to Vinny, and he would be this close to Diane, and it'd be even more not plausible.
Not
All right, we're
plausible, you know?
currently, we passed 10th, so just...
Now we're in the middle between 10th and 14th
This is
where
where-
it would have
Right, so-
happened.
This is where.
This
Yeah.
is where it would happen.
Tell me if you feel a bump.
There'll
not-
be a few bumps.
Is there a bump here?
Is there a bump? I mean, how
There's a
fast
bump.
were they going?
How could you go that fast,
You
no matter
couldn't
what,
go that
though?
fast.
Yeah.
There's a bump. Look at these
Piedmont Road.
bumps.
There's a lot of bumps.
Yeah,
We've got a lot of bumps right here.
that's plausible.
And now we're getting right by
This is
Piedmont
the park,
right?
yeah.
This is it.
From
Head
here
Explain
all the
to
way up.
people who may not be from here, Piedmont Park.
This is the Central Park of Atlanta. So this is even designed by the same guy who did Central Park, and we had the exposition here in late
And there wouldn't be
1800s. So it's a beautiful park.
And there wouldn't be
Although in
people
the
here at
middle
11
lane-
o'clock, 10:30 at night, would there?
There'd be people like this still. I used to live in this corner. There would be literally this much traffic all the time, literally. So that's plausibly going 20 miles an hour. What doesn't still work is if you're going 20. Let's go even say you're driving 40.
Now she's shot. We
Now she's
just
shot.
passed over 14.
And
It's
there's
at 14.
Piedmont Driving Club, which
Yes.
is the man in full, and then there's other issues here that
Gun has hit and
yeah.
it's gone
So let
right
me
back
ask you.
here.
Let me ask you. We did the drive that Tex McIver,
Yes.
his wife Diane, and Danny Joe did. Will the jury, who is from Atlanta, believe that he could have been that scared that he needed to go into his console and get the gun out because of the area we just drove?
Well, it depends on Fulton County is a
depends.
very, very large county, so
Yes.
it goes like this. Most of Georgia has counties that are more shaped better, but Fulton goes like this. So if you're, say, like Vinny lives in a part of a Fulton County that's far away from other parts, meaning he's on the one edge, okay? Why I'm saying that is that's why Vinny didn't know how to drive where the connector is, because he's not down here real often.
Right.
Same thing goes with some of the people who will either be from South Fulton or North Fulton.
That's right.
That will make a big difference unless the prosecution can really play out like we just did, how it really looks. And that goes to the judge and how he's going to allow some of the video components of this to come in as evidence. And we don't know yet. We don't know how Clint Rucker is going to be trying this case with respect to that, but technology would help.
And we have 9 white jurors, 3 African-American jurors. So what have been their experiences and where do they live, as you said, and what is their experience with Edgewood Avenue? And that will have a huge impact on whether they believe that he could have been scared enough on Edgewood Avenue.
Yep, I agree.
And I think that the best fact he has is how could he have predicted the traffic and that they would have gotten off? Like, if you are going to argue that this was murder and this was his plan, he couldn't have planned it until he had that gun in his hand.
Now,
right?
my thought is, as you know, you can get intent for first-degree murder within 2 seconds. You know, you can think about it. So my thought is that there was something brewing.
Right.
It could have been brewing for 10 minutes.
This is a great
10 years,
opportunity.
And all of a sudden, opportunity presented itself, and he had a tiny bit of wine. We all know that. We're not saying a lot, but he'd probably hit the last thing, and he's like, here, I've got this gun. This could work. You know, and boom. That's what the prosecution is going to try to prove.
All right, and if you guys have any questions or anything, what you can do is post them right now, and while I'm driving, you have a phone there? You guys.
We have one question from Elizabeth Snow. What kind of gun was it?
My understanding it's a Smith & Wesson 38, which may be similar to that if it's a 38 special.
Not a revolver.
It's just not orange.
It's just not ours. We will find out, because there were 2 guns in the Tex McIver case. One gun was the one that was taken from his sock drawer after he was arrested. That's not the alleged murder weapon. The murder weapon, I haven't seen them dangle that in court yet. I've just heard descriptions of it. So we'll see. It's definitely a handgun, and I believe it was a 38, but we shall see. And I think the big issue is going to be, is it cocked? Is it not cocked?
We have another good question. Are you driving to Emory Hospital? That would be a good question, because I read that's like 4.9 miles away from here.
Sure.
And I've already pointed out Grady. I've already pointed out Piedmont Hospital is about that way 2 miles.
To get there.
Sure.
And then you also, thank you, we don't have enough gas to get there, which
So as soon as
5
she
miles
got,
take 20 minutes.
Yes. So as soon as she got shot between 10th and 14th Street, he could have hooked a left right on 14th Street and backtracked 2 or 3 blocks on Peachtree to Emory Hospital, Crawford Long, right there in the center of downtown Atlanta. But he did not. Now remember, a man who's lived in Atlanta for 50 years and has practiced inside the city did not call 911,
which is bizarre as well.
Which is also bizarre, and kept on going a while longer to another hospital, where, by the way, he has connections and friends. So on the flip side, he could have gone where he was comfortable.
I think that's his argument, is that he's going to say that.
Clear, though, the judge did rule that evidence not coming in about the choice of
A hospital, correct.
But the 911 evidence will come in, that he did not call 911.
That's kind of huge. I mean, your wife was shot. Why would that be the first thing you do? Is you need help and you need to think. You can't think straight because you just see this absolute traumatic situation. We know she's shot. Enough.
Right.
Call 911.
Here's what I would argue.
But
Danny Joe, why did not Danny Joe, her girlfriend of 40 years, say, Tex, you're crazy. What are we doing right now? We need to call 911. It just doesn't fit why she wasn't, if he wasn't involved in immediate closest hospital, call 911. Why wasn't she?
Exactly. And also, that's what one of the questions is she still supporting, is Danny Joe supporting Tex now? What is her position? She will obviously be testifying.
She has been supportive of Tex.
And here's another question. How can he plan to kill her, not knowing exactly where we'd have to shoot in the seat? I think he was thinking out of anger, and so he said, you know what, F this woman, I'm going to and just shoot her. Because he loved guns, and he said, you know what, I've obviously knows how to shoot him. He knew shooting right here, where all the internal organs are. I mean, your liver, your kidney, I mean, good night, they're out.
Sure. You shoot somebody in the back anywhere between their head and their pelvis, you're going to hit an organ.
Yes.
All right, we're almost back to 11 Alive, by the way, folks. So
Tracy, we have not formed our views. We're presenting the arguments the prosecution might present, the defense might present. We just want you to think about it and all of the possible aspects of it. So neither one of us has necessarily formed our view. We're just saying we don't have all the facts. So just from a perspective of being lawyers, we're thinking, well, this is what one side might say, and this is what the other side might say, playing devil's advocate. But thanks for the question.
Another question, I like this one, though. Was he having an affair with Danny Joe? That might be interesting.
Now, in the last time we did our Facebook Live show, I said this is going to come up over and over and over again during the trial. There's no evidence of it, but I know on social media there's going to be a lot of talk about it. And I think it's going to be one of those issues that you're never going to hear anything in the courtroom about, but you're going to hear a lot of people wondering, and some people actually saying.
Oh, there you go. Someone just said, Danny Joe, what happened, girl? What does Tex have on you? So it may not be an affair. It could just be simply some sort of information, right? Keeping her quiet.
Hey, careful with the gun. We're going over a bump.
Oh, no! Pow!
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that's, and it turns into a joke, because if that's the defense, will the jury buy it?
No,
or
because he's a gun handler.
Is it comical?
It's comical.
Is it that laughable?
It's that laughable.
There's no way that the gun is going to go off because they go over a bump of a guy who's been handling guns for more than 50 years.
If it was me handling a gun, it would make sense, because I don't like guns. I don't like touching them. And if someone put them in my hands, I easily could have screwed something up. Easily.
Yeah.
Not
but
this
someone
gentleman.
who knows guns should not
No.
end up firing a gun inside a car because the car foreseeably drove over a bump, because there are bumps in the road
Does
everywhere.
not work.
How many trials have we said, oh, that's ridiculous, that could never happen, and then we get the verdict.
Yeah.
So let's not say anything is ridiculous until we have the timeline, the facts, and the case presented.
Well, allegedly they're going to have 100 witnesses or something crazy like this. Some ridiculous amount of witnesses. What are we going to have that many witnesses for?
Before we end the show here, because we're going to end the show momentarily, I wanted to ask you all quickly before we go here. Tomorrow morning opening statements.
Yes.
How does the prosecution, do they get up there and say the evidence is going to show that he did this on purpose? The evidence is going to show that he planned this, that he wanted his wife dead, that he wanted to get his hands on the money?
Yes.
Yes. It was a financial murder.
Yes, they have to.
He knew he was getting cut out of the will. He needed to get rid of her so that he could live the life he wanted to live.
Keep his farm that he absolutely adored.
Yes.
Loved the pasture, the being on the farm and the lake and shooting things and blah, blah, blah. That's the main thing, and I think that's what they're going to really push on.
Does the defense commit tomorrow to what their story is? Do they commit to it was an accident?
No.
He was in fear. They went over a bump?
If it was me and me trying with Fulton County, what I would do is say, let them show it. I'm going to keep my thoughts. You will hear our case and our arguments come closing. Just keep it up in mind. Remember reasonable doubt, those kinds of things. Keep my
and
open
not lock
short.
yourself into a story.
No.
I'm not sure, because I'm not sure that they haven't already locked themselves into that story. So if it changes, it would be a little bit, I don't know. I think that story is the story that will raise the reasonable doubt. That will get him off.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. Big thanks to Mo Ivory and Meg Strickler for taking us for the tour tonight and giving us some insight. Again, folks, we'll be doing this every night, not necessarily in the truck, but usually from the studio, 7:30 every night during the course of the trial. And, of course, it'll be streaming on the Facebook page you're watching right now. So you'll be able to see the trial here each and every day. You'll be able to get the analysis and everything at 7:30 to put some perspective on it, and also to ask your questions and give us your perspective of what you're seeing, because you are the 13th juror. And then finally, every night at 11 o'clock on the late feed, we'll put it all together, the analysis, the biggest moments from court, and break it down for you on the late feed every night at 11. I'm Vinny Politan. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow morning in court, 9 a.m., opening statements. Good job, everybody.
Yay.
We may still be on, so